Hello and welcome back to the Academy of the Magical Art. I am Frater Ophio, and today we are going to begin delving into the laws of magic. The laws that we are going to discuss have been recognized as a governing structure which makes magic seem to work or gaining for the practitioner's desired results, and then causing people to believe in their validity. Many people have observed the acts which practitioners attempt and sometimes do perform, and from such observations these classifications and types of laws that were used were then constructed. One of the pioneers to achieve such a classification of these laws involved the magic of Sir James George Frazer in his book The Golden Bough, which is a study of magic and religion, a book that I highly recommend reading. Many others have discussed such classifications, including Isaac Bonowitz, to whom the writer is indebted for his brief classification of the magical laws, and Richard Cavendish. We are going to take a brief look at the laws of magic within this playlist and discuss some examples that can be given. The reasoning behind this is twofold. First, we want to acquaint you with these laws and then give a reference from which they can be pointed out in our everyday lives and when appearing in our magical practice. The first, and I feel most important and pertinent law, is called the law of knowledge, because with understanding law comes control and power over the law. The more a person or a magician knows about another person or a phenomena, the more control that they have over it. This rule is absolute and applies to the entire human organism, ranging from the smallest to the largest forms of life and things that aren't alive. For instance, by knowing a person's daily routine, if one desires to alter that person's behavior, all we have to do is change a small factor or two, and that person's behavior will entirely change. By understanding a person's beliefs or their polarity, if they are polarized, all you have to do is throw a little comment at them and you completely affect the entire way that they will feel and behave their emotions. Of course, they are in control of those emotions, but by understanding their lack of control over their polarity, he who knows the law is able to then influence he who does not, which is why knowing and understanding the Hermetic principles and the universal laws of magic is so very important. A person with knowledge over a computer is able to control the computer, whereas a person without such knowledge is not able to operate it. We can all relate to this analogy, as we all have parents or grandparents in our lives that tried to pick up a cell phone or tried to pick up a computer and had no idea how to operate it and just got frustrated and put it down until somebody showed them. Within the law of knowledge is a specific sub-law, which is called the law of self-knowledge, or to know thyself. This principle is essential in the law of knowledge and is equally applicable and essential to the law. One who does not know himself, having never tested himself or analyzed himself, or having no understanding of his limitations, and does not then know what he is capable of, what he needs to learn to ascend, or what he or she needs to do in order to purify themselves and become more divine beings. This would be an example of an insecure person, one who is not willing to analyze and delve into the deepest, darkest depths of their soul. The reverse is also true. A person who has trained himself and tested his abilities is very secure. They have, by trial and error, test and refinement, obtained the knowledge and training to perfect their abilities to the extent that they have control, and then know what they are able to do with those abilities. This is a person that is able to control the computer or any activity that they wish to put themselves and their minds to. This includes the magicians, who have practiced their art until they have refined it and become proficient at it. Many magicians will tell you that their proficiency, that their power, lies solely with knowledge of self. The law of names is related to both the law of knowledge and the law of association, which is something that we will discuss later. This law simply states that by knowing the true and complete name of a phenomena or an entity, you then have control over it. There are two premises upon which this law is based. First, a name is simply a symbol or a definition of a phenomena or an entity. If the phenomena is fire, one simply says fire instead of describing the whole phenomena of that fire. If the entity is a man, one just says man. If the name or term fire and man convey the definition of fire and man, names convey the definition of all other things, provided that they are spoken in a mutual language spoken by both the speakers and the listeners. If you have ever witnessed or educated yourself on the process of exorcism, the exorcist strives to learn the name of the spirit to then gain control over the spirit and assert that control to make it exit the host or the residence in which it is dwelling. This is traditional Catholic exorcism. Granted, there are other paths of spirituality and paths of magic that do things very differently than the Catholic Church, but this is just one example of where this law is applicable. We will be going more in depth into names and choosing magical names and understanding names in a video to come, but for now I just want you to consider the power that this knowledge of the phenomena of the name or any other event in your life has. Knowledge of yourself, a knowledge of the world around you. To understand one, you will understand the other, and vice versa. Names of phenomena and entities can expand as one gains more knowledge about the subject matter. This is extremely important because the more one knows about a thing, the more control he has over it, as we said previously. In some instances, a name of a thing can be traced to its root, or even in a foreign language, which will supply much more additional information about the thing, especially if you look in root languages such as Hebrew, Aramaic, or even Latin, which is much older. To know the name of a thing in one of these older languages, you literally hold the entire essence of the thing. The Hebrews and the Kabbalists believe that when God spoke and when he created, he put forth and strung together the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and in doing so described the whole of the thing, causing it to come forth in existence through the vibration of the sound he created. For instance, Aleph, Bet, and Nun that were strung together to create stone. By looking at those three letters, you can gain an entire understanding of that thing that is the stone, rather than just saying the word stone. So when a magician combines the law of names with the law of knowledge, he can select a specific phenomena or entity because he possesses all the knowledge that he can about that thing. For example, the magician does not mention a fire or a man, but names a fire in a certain location, a village or a town, and mentions a man named Thomas. He knows about fire and the location, and would also know about the man called Thomas. This is why the magician seems to have a wealth of knowledge. Ancient magicians were called wise ones. The Wiccan or Wicca is a wise one. Some occultists, particularly witches, choose mystical or magical names, which they usually keep secret because they believe that there is more power within the name that they have chosen for themselves than the name that they were given. So many, especially the more experienced ones, will keep their true magical names secret. I myself have a magical persona, which is Frater Ophiel. I also have a circle name, and I have a magical name that I keep to myself that nobody knows other than me. Again, this is a subject that will be covered at a later date, in a video to come on magical names specifically. Combined with the law of names is the law of words of power. This law is greatly used today, and some think its usage is over-exaggerated. Words or terms like teacher, professor, doctor, technician, priest, or even pope hold some people in awe. It describes a specific essence or a specific vibration that that person holds. For example, many, especially Catholics, again, are just as overwhelmed by the term pope as the ancient people of the village were with their witch doctor or their sorcerer. They held them in very, very high reverence, and just to simply say that title caused the people to hold high regard to that individual and believe them to be holy and hold them with possession of a higher power. That's why pope or witch doctor or sorcerer or magus or priest or whatever will call down a specific vibration. If the authority of the individual was not recognized by the people, the power would be useless. So there they hold titles. In the above example, the Pope, who is widely recognized and given great amounts of respect, the reverse can also be true. Strange and mysterious words can also affect people in very severe ways, but much different. For instance, the word abracadabra can have a great effect on some people, especially those uneducated or who just believe in magic as this taboo thing, particularly when it's spoken by somebody that they have respect for. The word abracadabra simply means I create as I speak, but its significance to these people comes not from the meaning of the word, but from the stories and from what they have in their pre-subconscious programming throughout their lives of this being a taboo word of magic. or they believe that it holds no meaning at all. Two sides of the same coin, two polarities. My point here is that not only is knowledge important, knowledge of yourself, knowledge of the world around you, but also the knowledge of words and the knowledge of the power that they hold and the vibrations that they hold. I want to first and foremost strongly suggest that you begin learning yourself on a deep, deep level. A good way to start this is through numerology and astrology. We've begun discussing numerology in the folder or playlist titled Numerology, and that will give you a good start on how to begin your own numerological analysis of yourself. And when we move more into astrology, that will be available as well. For now, again, I encourage that you begin to build your profile and begin to understand yourself, your fate, your strengths, your weaknesses, so on and so forth on a very, very deep level, because through understanding them, you will gain control over them. You can refine the weaknesses and turn them into strengths, thus becoming much more powerful than you presently are through the knowledge of self and the knowledge of how that self reacts with the world around you. I want to thank you again for joining with me today at the Academy of the Magical Art, and until next time, blessed be.